Hi, I'm Phil Richards. We're at Juno Lighting Group Idealab Studios, and today we're going to install a low-voltage monopoint and quick-jack pendant. There are three things involved in this installation. First of all, our transformer. The transformer will be used to connect the line voltage from our pre-mounted junction box via the armored cable. On the secondary side, we'll use Class 2 wire connecting to the 12-volt side of the transformer to the monopoints, and then again that Class 2 wire to join daisy chain from monopoint to monopoint to monopoint. The quick jacks themselves are kind of a universal adapter that allow you to suspend any quick jack mounted pendant to the monopoint. And you can see that the pendants themselves are available in a flute shape as our mini monopoint in LED, a cylinder, or the cylinder with the glass cuff. All in all, literally any pendant that Juno Lighting Group manufactures can be adapted with a quick jack and hung from that monopoint. Let's start with our transformer. I'm going to remove the top here so that we can see what's inside, and the cover. And you can see on this end, we've got a connector to accept our line voltage, which is coming in. I'm just going to feed that through there. Tighten the connector. Give it a little pull to make sure it's secure, and one more turn. And I'm going to grab those black, green, and white wires that are coming through that connector into my little housing, and I will attach them to the corresponding wire terminals. In this case, my green ground terminal is loose inside of the housing. There's my ground connection. And my black connection, this of course is a little terminal block, is going to go into the corresponding black lug. And let's tighten that down. Next, the white. Next, we'll connect the Class 2 wire to the secondary side of the transformer, also a screw lug terminal. So I'm going to split those wires and feed them through that oval-shaped hole. These are the wires that, of course, connect to my load. And I'll strip those. You may notice here there's no black wire and white wire. We just have two red wires going into two black wires. With low voltage systems, we are not required to observe any kind of polarity. I'm tightening the screw now down onto my first wire and my second wire coming next. Now that we've attached our primary and secondary leads to the transformer, we're ready to fasten the cover back on. So I'll just place that over the pre-drilled holes in the chassis and insert those little Phillips screws. That finishes off of our transformer. So we can see now that we're pre-wired to go to our line voltage junction box in the ceiling, and my secondary wire is ready to drop through the hole for our first monopoint. Before we begin the actual install, we need to go back to our circuit breaker box and make sure that the power is off for the circuit that we're working on. So we've pre-wired our transformer, and I'm using the armored cable to go back to the junction box. Power is off. Here's my secondary 12-volt lead with our Class 2 wire. I'm now going to wire that to my first monopoint. So let's take a look at what involves the monopoint. First, I'm going to take the finished cover off. This part will go on last. And here you can see kind of a flanged plate. This is a 1 3/4 inch cylinder shape, the same size as the hole that we drill in the ceiling. And when I tighten these two screws on the very bottom, it causes these wings to pop out and then compress down. So it will squeeze the drywall or tile in between the flange and that little wing that comes out. Next, I'm going to remove my cover for the wiring compartment. And I have a space in there. So this compartment will house the junction of the two wires from the fixture, the wire leads from my transformer, and the wire leads that go to the adjacent fixture, which will then be fed through my second hole. So let's begin. Since the cover goes on last, I'm going to have to put two sets of wires through there. And one of the nice things about low voltage is that there is no polarity requirements on the 12-volt side. So I'll just be attaching a lead from each wire to one of each of these leads. Okay, so 3 together. And a couple wire nuts should do it. And 3 together. All right, because these wires are nice and flexible, I'm going to put those right back down into that wiring compartment and refasten my top. I'm now going to fasten the top with 2 screws. I'm going to detach that little wire strain relief clip there so that I can attach it more easily to my 2 wires coming in. And we'll put those under the clip. Reinsert. Tighten my second screw. Feed my whip that goes to the next fixture. Now I'll push that monopoint back up through the hole. Tighten those screws so those little butterflies come out. And the other side. Snap on my finished cover. Let's move on to our second fixture. Our whip from our first fixture is hanging free, so once again, I'm going to thread it through that top, which I've already removed, and I'm going to take that secondary wire that's going to my next fixture, my daisy chain wire, and feed it through that same hole. I'll be fastening 3 wires together. Do it one more time with my second pair and my fixture wire. I'm attaching the wire nut. I'm going to push that down inside of my wiring compartment as neatly as possible and as gently as possible so that nothing pops off. This top is a little tricky. It's keyed. There's a little nib that goes into a little tiny slot on top. It's a little bit tough to see sometimes with the black on black. Now I'm going to replace the 2 screws that hold that to the top. And again. And then I'm going to bring my 2 secondary wires through the strain relief to hold them down nice and tight so that nothing pulls out. And replacing the second screw. So I'm just going to make sure that my strain relief screws are snug. Oh, here's my lead coming from my first fixture. And here is my lead going to my next fixture, which I'll push up there. Push it up through the hole. We're going to tighten up those two screws that bring those wings down that sandwich the drywall in between the wings and the flange on the bottom of the plate. We'll put on our finished cover, and that's number 2. So I'm going to remove the cover to the wiring compartment from our third and final fixture. Set those screws aside. Kind of thread that last whip. This is the end run, so I only just have one group of wires coming to this fixture. And we'll fasten one to one and one to the other. Silver to copper. Twist it on with the wire nut. Twist my second wire nut on. Gently place that back inside the wiring compartment. And replace the 2 screws that fasten the top of the wiring compartment back on. And screw those 2 screws down firmly. So I've got my strain relief fastened. I'm going to push it back up through the hole and then fasten the 2 retaining screws that are going to bring those little wings down and grab the drywall in between the bottom flange on the fixture and the little wing. So the cover's on. Now let's attach our quick jack. So the quick jack is the way that we connect our mono point to the actual fixture. Now, unless you actually need 72 inches of wire with a quick jack already attached, you're going to be cutting the quick jack off the coaxial cable that comes with the fixture and reattaching it. I've already pre-wired these 2, so that way we have 3 all of even lengths, and they've measured out to 17¼ inches. The first thing I'm going to do is actually cut that quick jack off with a wire cutter. Now I'm going to remove that wire and reattach it to my quick jack fixture, which has been cut to the exact length that it needs to be. I'm going to grab the little Allen wrench that's supplied with the fixture and loosen a little Allen set screw that's all the way at the tip of the quick jack. Next, I'm going to grab the shaft of that jack, a little knurled plier, and screw the back of that quick jack off, and this should pull right out. Next, I'm going to take the back of that quick jack and thread it onto my new fixture. I'm going to strip the tip of that wire. This is a 20 gauge wire. I'm using a 20 gauge stripper here, and I'm going to take about, probably about 1/4 inch or less off the tip of that insulation. Okay, I'm going to give that a little twist, and I'm going to push this up through the tube that's in the jack. Sometimes you hit a little point where it doesn't feel like it wants to go any farther, but you'll know that you've pushed it in far enough when you see the tip of the wire come out of the end of the jack. I'm going to re-tighten that Allen screw with the supplied wrench. And you want to tighten this pretty tight. So very firmly. Okay, now I'm going to take that braided jacket, which is actually one of our conductors, and slip it over that little cylinder tube. I'm going to bring that back, rounded part of the quick jack, and rethread it. To get it just nice and tight, I'm going to grab the end of that shaft part and give it a couple more turns just to get it on there nice and tight. You can see that the tip of my inner wire is still just a hair past the end of the jack. That's fine. And I'm ready to hang my fixture. And I'm going to insert the tip of that quick jack right through that hollow threaded nipple, tighten it until it stops, grab our second fixture and do the same. And lastly, number 3. All right, my assistant is back at the circuit breaker box, ready to restore power. And you can see another successful quick jack, monopoint, and pendant installation. I'm Phil Richards for Juno Lighting Group.